Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I'm your host, Lori Palau, and today we are wrapping up our Clutter Clinic series, which I'm kind of bummed about, to be honest. I really have enjoyed kind of walking through each one of these rooms and spaces with you. So if you're new to the show and this is your first episode, welcome. So glad that you're here. Definitely encourage you to go back and listen to some of the other episodes in the Clutter Clinic series. We talked about kitchens, we talked about closets, we talked about kid spaces, and today we at garages, don't want to forget garages, but today we're talking all about dun 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 paper control. Probably everybody's biggest nemesis. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind you guys about my friend Kara Harvey's webinar that she is doing. It's an on-demand free webinar that she's doing all about time management and productivity. And you can get it directly on her website. I'm going to give you the URL. It is a purpose-drivenmom.com/Lori, Laurie. I'll also put that link in our show notes. Again, you don't even have to be a mom, but she's a mom and it's geared towards moms. If you're a mom and you're trying to get like a hold of your to-do lists and all the things on your plate, she uses Trello as her management system. She's got some great tips and hacks. And so she's put together this free download for you to consume, enjoy, use all the things. And so, like I said, if you go a purpose-drivenmom.com/Lori, you can claim your spot and have access to it. Now, okay, want to talk about paper. So it's interesting. I don't know if any of you guys follow me on social media, but I do a live on Instagram pretty much every Monday. And this past Monday, I did one as a teaser for this episode, and we're talking all about paper. And we had such a great response to that. So many people chimed in, really kind of waving their hand, going, that is me. This is the bane of my existence. Paper's where I struggle. And I totally get it. And really, I can relate because I said it on the live and I'll say it again for all of you guys here. Paper is my least favorite thing to organize. But it's my least favorite space. When somebody's like, oh, I need help with a home office or dealing with paper, it immediately, I'm like, oh, it's like the dread. And so want to first unpack today a little bit about why that is. Why is paper kind of that dreaded space for so many people? And then I also want to talk about what are some simple strategies that we can do because so many people feel like we are drinking from a fire hose when it comes to paper. Like it just keeps multiplying, like they're gremlins. And so I want to give you guys some actionable things that you can do today to start reducing paper clutter. Okay, so let's get into it. First thing I want to do is talk about 5 negative effects of paper clutter. So again, if in addition to the obvious of just having like a volume of stuff, what are some other negative effects of having that paper clutter? First thing is we spend more money than we need to, and that can result as opposed to incurring late fees for missed bills, and missing things that are kind of falling through the cracks. We also can miss deadlines for RSVPs. How many times have you like, oh, I forgot to RSVP for this? Or maybe if you had a pile of papers, there was a coupon or something in there that gave you access to like a free pass or a discount on something and it's expired. So like we're losing out on these missed opportunities by accumulating paper clutter. The other thing is we have a lot of duplication of work. So when we think about the whole time component of paper clutter, and this can apply whether you're at work with paper clutter or at school with paper clutter or at home. A lot of times we will wind up either accumulating more paper clutter because we're printing stuff out repeatedly, or we are doing double duty on things because we can't find what we have. And it's just like I said, it's an inefficient use of our time. And we all know that time is our most valuable commodity. So, not having a system and a strategy when it comes to paper is just an overall inefficiency for us. One of the intangibles about paper clutter is that it just adds stress and anxiety. When we see piles of paper, it is stress inducing or anxiety producing. When we have so many people, it amazes me, but it seems to be more common than not. People that have like lots of unopened mail and that just build up. And that's just a level of procrastination that usually results from anxiety, where people are just overwhelmed and anxious. You remember we talk about 5 clutter pitfalls: procrastination, indecision, guilt or fear, overwhelm, and time. I would say that I can pinpoint how each one of those 5 clutter pitfalls can have a through line to paper clutter. It's that impactful, paper clutter. And then the other thing, which is just I mentioned already, is just that general feeling of being out of control. Whether it's out of control with your space, like your desk is being swallowed by paper clutter, or your time, where you're just drowning and trying to figure out what you need. And so I think for a lot of people, they're they've had this being like going on for an ongoing problem for so long, it's really hard to figure out how they're going to get out of it. It's like debt for a lot of people, right? So when you're in debt and you're just like, well, I'm in debt already, I might as well just add to it. Or overweight already, I might as well just eat that dessert. It's so much easier for us to kind of take the path of least resistance. And with paper clutter, it's subtle. It's just incoming mail. It's stuff that we've printed out. And we're not even really getting into digital clutter, which that I think we're going to do for another time. But thinking about the things that we print out and that sit on our desk that, oh, we're going to take action on it. And then we just don't. So those are some really big negative effects of paper clutter. So now that we know that, I want to just unpack again for those of you who are out there some common threads of why paper clutter or why paper is challenging to keep organized. Because for a lot of people, they can be organized in other areas of their home and of their lives. But when it comes to paper, there just doesn't seem to be a good system, or it's really difficult to find what that system is. And so just want to unpack that a little bit. The first thing is, and this might surprise some of you, is that paper is one of the largest culprits of emotional clutter. And if you remember me talking about the 3 types of clutter, your physical clutter, the stuff that you see, obviously paper clutter can fall under that. Calendar clutter, which is our whole time management, how we use our time, is our time being productive, all of those things. But then we have our emotional clutter, which stems from guilt and fear. And there is a lot of fear, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that people face or place when it comes to paper clutter. And it's usually that what if. If you're watching me on YouTube, you see me, my air quotes, that what if factor. What if I need it? What if I get audited? What if I have to access this? That what if, what if, what if. And because of that, a lot of people will hold on unnecessarily to paper that they don't need, and that results in clutter. The second reason why paper clutter is super challenging is because it's really probably, and I said this at the top of the episode, it's boring. It's like the least sexy area to organize. I know for me, when I organize any other space, you could pick it. It could be a closet, it could be a pantry, it could be a playroom. You see this cluttered space and you see this major transformation, and it's pretty and it's organized, and you have this sense of like, oh, you very rarely see an Instagram or a Pinterest picture of a filing cabinet that really gets you excited. So the greatest thing about getting your paper clutter under control is that minimization of it, of not having it at all. So it's not like you really want to hold on to it. The whole goal with paper is that you don't want to see it. You don't want to even have it. And how can we streamline it in a way that is going to be um, work for us so that we do have access to the information when we need it, that we do reduce that fear factor of what if I do need it? How can I get it? And then the third thing is that whole ease of retrieval. How quickly can I get it if I do need it? And again, the other thing that I just want to point out with paper, and this is another reason why it's a struggle for people, is it's ongoing. So we are constantly bombarded by lots of paper. But the good news is, with some of these strategies that I'm going to talk to you about, we can actually reduce the amount of physical paper clutter that comes into our house on a daily basis. So that is what I want you to think about. We're going to go and take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to dive right into some simple strategies that you guys can use to take away so that you can start today on reducing the amount of paper that comes into your house. Okay, doke? Sit tight. All right, so we're talking today all about paper clutter, how to reduce it, how to reduce the volume of paper, and more importantly, of the stuff that we're holding on to, which should only be the stuff that's really important, how quickly are we going to be able to access it when we need it? That's the question you always want to be asking. Whenever we file anything, how quickly can we get it? Because when you need something, especially when it comes to paper, it's usually something that's timely. And so you don't want to be wasting time looking through it, sorting through piles of paper, going through, weeding through filing boxes or cabinets. We don't want to have any of that. You want to know that you need it and you want to know where to go to get it. Plain and simple. So, okay. First thing that I want all of you guys to do. So if you have a pen and paper, write this down. If not, all of this is going to be in our show notes. So don't worry. Step one is I want you to pare down what you're saving. Now, that's a big question, or that's a big statement. And a lot of people are like, okay, great, but how? How do I know what to keep? How do I pare it down? So here are some simple strategies. Number one, first thing I want you to do is I want you to cancel any subscriptions, any paper subscriptions that you are getting that you don't read. That's a magazine, that's a newsletter, that's a newspaper. Anything that you're getting that you are not reading anymore, I want you to just cancel it. Get rid of it. As far as things that just come to you that you're not subscribed to, for example, you ordered something from a catalog and now you're on their mailing list, take the time as soon as you get it to call them. There should be a number, an 800 number, and you can call them and ask them to be removed from their mailing list. Plain and simple. It's going to take one time and then you're going to be done. So cancel subscriptions that you're not reading. And then again, I didn't add this. I'm kind of like ad-libbing this one. Most people, if they're getting the paper version of something, it's because they like the paper version. But most stores, or most, if not all, like newspapers and magazines, have an online version. So if you are comfortable with reading your content online, that's another way that you can still consume your content, but you don't have to be accumulating the paper. Okay, so you're going to cancel whatever you are not reading. The second thing that you're going to do is go electronic for any statements that you're getting. That goes for any bank statements, any credit card statements, any recurring statements. So if you have your water bill or your electric bill, any possible statement that you can get sent to you electronically, go ahead and do it. And that is most recurring bills. So you might still be getting, if you get like a medical bill in the mail, but the majority of your recurring bills that you get on a monthly basis can and should all be sent to you electronically. So that will immediately cut down on your paper clutter. Okay. If you are getting statements of anything in the mail, I want you, as soon as you pay that, if it's something, and we'll talk about what you need to keep and what you don't, but as soon as you pay it, as soon as you're done with that, shred it. You don't need to keep it. Monthly statements, you do not need to keep. You can access all of them online. And again, we'll talk about that. But that is going to be changing your behavior. And that's the trickiest part for people. The hardest part is breaking this routine, which we're going to, breaking the bad habits and getting into a new healthy routine. So again, as soon as you pay something, what a lot of people do is they pay it and then they think they need to file it. I used to do that back in the day, but now I just, as soon as I pay that bill that came to me in paper, as soon as I get it, oh, the landscaper sent me a bill. Okay, I pay it, shred it right away. That's it. Paid, shred. Another tip that you can do is avoid bringing junk mail into the house. Now, hopefully, you're not getting a ton of junk mail, but anything that you get, depending on kind of what your routine is, how you walk in your house, where your mailbox is, do you have a P.O. box, how you get it. I know for me, as I walk in with my mail, if I'm reading it from outside, anything that's junk, any circulars I get in the mail or anything that I know is just a pure solicitation, I don't even bring it in my house, people. I immediately put it right in the recycling bin. And so if maybe it does come into your house because your kids are bringing it in or it's whatever, you just bring it in before you do anything with it, immediately just get rid of it. So just get rid of all that junk. So that is going to just reduce the amount of decisions that you have to make. And decision fatigue is such a big thing of why people have that paralysis when it comes to paper clutter. Another tip that I want you to do, and this is going to be, again, we're talking about the here and now. We're not even talking about going back. We're talking about like starting today with your stuff, is any manuals you get. So every time you buy something new, it comes with a manual. It doesn't matter. I bought a knife the other day, like a kitchen knife, and it came with like a little piece of paper. You don't need it. Anything nowadays is available online. You get a grill, you get an appliance. All of your manuals are available online. So if you're an old school person and you like to, not old, but old school, and you like to read the paper stuff, okay, fine. Read through it, read through your directions, whatever you need to do, and then get rid of it. You don't need it. Anything that you need, if you have like a warranty card or something, fine. You want to have a folder in your filing cabinet for like household warranties, for any of those things, that's fine. But the manuals, the instructions, you do not need to keep those. Okay. So it's okay. I'm giving you permission to purge that stuff. All right. The next thing, step 2, is so now you're starting to pare down what you're even having. Now, step 2 is about getting into a routine. And getting into a routine, again, is about changing your behavior, changing the way I've been doing things that haven't been working. How can I start to implement, if I could speak, implement some new habits that are going to be healthier and more productive to help me reduce in this paper control? So one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you're one of those people that's a procrastinator in terms of even opening your mail, like you bring it in and I'll deal with it later. You're either too tired, you're running in a million different directions, you just like aren't in the mood, whatever it is. I'm going to encourage you to open and take action on your mail on a daily basis. That's it. So again, doesn't mean that you have to pay your bill right away, but you have to make a decision right away. If you do this every single day, it should take you less than a minute. I'm not even joking. Here's how you're going to do it. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Okay. You're going to have 3 piles, right? So normally when I talk about organizing a space, I talk about your 4 piles, right? Your 4 piles are your keep, your donate, your recycle, relocate. Well, we're going to do it a little bit different when it comes to paper clutter. So our paper clutter, or our paper process, is going to include our action pile. And your action pile is anything that you need to do. Think verb. You need to RSVP to something. You need to pay a bill. You need to call somebody. That's your action pile. Okay, so that's pile number one. Category number two, pile number two, is your shred pile. Shred pile is anything that you get, or it could be shred slash recycle, right? Anything you don't need, it's get rid of it, right? So shredding or recycling it, whatever. Any junk mail, you don't need this. It's just a, hey, reminder, your automated thing was posted. Great. Some circular, like I said, in the mail, somebody's, selling something, soliciting something. You just immediately put it in the recycling. Or if you're going to shred it, have a shredder nearby so that you can shred it right away. Okay, so that is gone, out of the way. And then the third, and this should be a very small pile and hopefully not even every day, you're going to have your, what I call it, your reference pile. And that's basically the information that you need to file, that you do need to keep, and or that you want to keep, right? So for example, my daughter's going off to college. So I got a lot of mail from her college coming in about protocols, whatever. Eventually, I'm going to purge that. I'm sure of it because I'm not going to need it and it will be outdated. But for the here and now, I want to keep it in case I need to reference it. Now, again, probably most of the stuff that I have that I'm going to be keeping is available online, but this is directly for her major, all of the things. So I created a file and I have a file for her college. So if I need something, I can easily just go and retrieve it. But the rest of the stuff that comes in the mail that I get, I take either action on it or I get rid of it. So those are my three piles. And I do it on the daily. Now, here's the thing. Just because you're creating the three piles doesn't mean that you have to actually do the work every day. Meaning, if I get a bill in the mail or I get something that I need to RSVP to, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop what I'm doing and pay that bill right now. But I'm going to put it into my organizer that I have that's in my kitchen command center, because that's where I come in and that's where I sort my mail. And in my kitchen command center, I have two upright files, and I'll post a picture in our Facebook group. The first one is where my action file goes. So that's where all my bills go. Or like I said, if I have something to RSVP to, that's where that goes. The one behind it is the reference. So I know when that gets filled, that's when I go, and that's my cue to go up and file. Once I can't fit any more in there, that's when I go up there. So that's how I use my cues. Okay. You can use your cue however it works for you. If you're the person that says, I'm going to do this every Monday, then do it every Monday. If you are able to space it out, file once a month, whatever it is, as long as you're staying on top of it, that's all that matters. As long as you're not delinquent in your bills, you're not missing deadlines, all of those things, as long as you're keeping current, the routine can be completely customized to you. Like I said, for me, I use my physical space for the action reference as my cue to say, okay, now it's time for me to file because I can't fit any more in there. And so, and the way that I've pared down so much that only has to happen every couple months. Like that's how infrequently, that's how much little paper I actually accumulate. So if you're finding that you have to do this often, then I think one of the first cues you're going to know is maybe I need to rethink how much I'm keeping, because again, I'm probably keeping more than I need. So what I want you to ask yourself if you are struggling with keeping something is, can I find it electronically if I need it? And if the answer is yes, then you could safely assume that you can shred it. And how long would it take me to find it if I file it? And what happens is a lot of people say they're going to file, and this is my to be filed pile, but then they never actually do it. So the time it would take them to retrieve the information they need would be so long and so overwhelming that they may as well just have gotten rid of it altogether. So again, just to recap, the whole goal is to have ease of retrieval and the least amount of paper clutter. We as Americans, right? I'm taking specifically because I was looking at statistics from America. We accumulate hundreds of papers a week from now. And so if you can reduce that number significantly to literally a handful of things that you're actually retrieving in paper form, that is going to reduce so much of your overwhelm. And so then once you go from there and you can then have simple systems for your action and your reference, then you can manage this and it becomes less of an overwhelming task for you to say, I'm going to open the mail every day. I hope that makes sense. All right, we're going to take one more quick break and then I want to come back and I'm just going to give you some general tips and I want to talk all about how you can use, or I want to talk about how you can use some electronic apps and programs to make your life easier. All right, so before I leave you guys, I just want to encourage all of you to whatever companies that you do work with, whether it's your insurance company, whether it's your cell phone provider, whether it's your, your water company, your electric company, all of these companies have online logins and many of them have apps. And the apps will give you information that you can access directly onto your account on your phone or device. And so if you're somebody that really feels like I want to be able to have access to this at the tip of my fingers, the best thing that you can do is download or subscribe to whatever your provider's online portal is. Put in your login information so that you have it. And then that way you can access it. And I know this has been really helpful for us, specifically when it comes to like insurance information for the car, insurance information for our health insurance, because that way, if you're out and about and you need it, you have everything right there at your fingertips. And so again, it's reducing the paper clutter and it's increasing the efficiency that you know where your stuff is. The other thing that I always tell people is, especially if people are drowning in paper clutter and they're just completely overwhelmed, the first thing I do is I tell them to start today. Don't worry about what's already happened. I want you to start building these healthy habits and building that muscle memory moving forward. Okay. You can't change what's happened and we can address it. But before you go in and start addressing it, because paper is an ongoing thing, I want you to start with the action items that we talked about today. So, removing yourself from subscriptions that you don't need, subscribing to the online version of your statements as opposed to getting paper statements. So do all of these things now. And if you can stop the bleeding now, it'll be like it'll reduce that feeling of drinking from a fire hose. So if you can start to do set those good habits in motion, once you feel like you have that under control, you can go back and start purging some of the old stuff that you don't need. But I think it's important, again, if you don't address the current, it's really hard to figure out the stuff from the past and stay on top of things. Setting parameters. Set those parameters. What is going to be your cue? Is it going to be a reminder on your calendar? Is it going to be something that you know every week? We get home from church, I take care of the bills. I don't know. Or are you going to have a space that, once this space gets filled or whatever, that's my cue to do it. And you need to stick to it, right? So set that parameter for yourself and then make sure that you stay consistent with doing that. And just remember, and I tell this with any space, if you are committed to making these changes, the hardest part is getting started. Once you get going, it becomes so much easier. And every time you do it, it gets a little bit easier. Even for me, who does this for a living, who knows exactly what to do, who has a system set up, I dread paper clutter. I dread the actual filing of whatever I need to do. And that is why I do it so infrequently. And I know as soon as I start to do it, I remind myself that the system I set up was so easy that it really, like, why was I stressing about this? So I had all of this unnecessary stress, wasted worry, all of this stuff. And it's something that really took me hardly any time to actually take action on. So all of that anticipation was really for nothing. And the key is to continue again to build that muscle memory. And that goes for any organizing space. But if you continue to do it on a routine basis, you will be in really good shape. So those are my tips for paper clutter. I hope that this has empowered you to say, enough is enough. I'm done. I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm going to get rid of this stuff. I'm going to start doing my stuff electronically. I don't have to worry about it. And I don't need all of these things. If you feel like you need some additional help, we are here to help you. So we've got a ton of free resources on our website. We also have our amazing SBO partners, which are professional organizers, and they're all over the globe. So if you are looking for someone to help you even set up the system so that you can get off on the right foot, reach out to one of our SBO partners in your neck of the woods, and they can help you. And again, I have a whole chapter in my book, Hot Mess, Practical Guide to Getting Organized, all about what to keep, what you don't need to keep, how to go about what apps I use to unsubscribe, how to set up your bills electronically. Like, it's very, very detailed. So if you haven't already read that chapter, pick up my book, Hot Mess, wherever books are sold, and you can read that. So that is it for our Clutter Clinic series. I really hope that you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with another episode of This Organized Life. So until then, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.